Once I had started in the movies, and I was very fortunate to right away after the little test that I told you about earlier in our conversation, I got a part, and it was a big part. And from then on, I always got the leads. I have been a very fortunate actress.
The following program is from NET, the National Educational Television Network.
During the run of Eugene O'Neill's More Stately Mansions in Los Angeles, Cecil Smith, drama critic of the Los Angeles Times, talked with international film, stage, and television star Ingrid Bergman on stage at the Ahmanson Theater.
Miss Bergman, as long as we're on your set, this is Deborah's garden and really the center of your life and the play. I thought we might play itself, More Stately Mansions.
Yes.
The play that brought you back to this country, to the American stage for the first time in 21 years. How do you feel about it now? You've been in it 3 months, working close with it.
Yes, so I love it more and more because it is so rich in material, in thoughts, and it's so profound, and it's so... You discover, every evening we discover something new. And as a matter of fact, we continue to work on it and put in lines and take out because, as you know, the original script is so much longer than what we do, I think.
And when it was produced first in Sweden, it ran about 5 hours, is that right?
Yes, it was almost 5 hours. And, of course, it was done in Sweden because O'Neill liked the Swedish people. I think it was because he was so influenced by Strindberg. And the Swedes have grown up on that type of theater, and they understand O'Neill maybe better than the Americans, I don't know. However, he himself had decided that his wife could give the plays to Sweden first. So that's how it happened, that it was first done in Sweden.
But I remember you telling me when you first started rehearsals here, almost with anguish, you wondered if, are you doing the right thing? Are we doing the right thing to do this play?
Yes.
When
Yes,
you really
of
said that it
course.
should be destroyed.
Yes, of course, when you have read that he actually sat down and decided, as he had not finished his plays, he had not trimmed them down to the size that he wanted. And naturally, an author throws down a lot of ideas, and he has notes on this and that, and maybe rewrites the same scene several times, that he himself wants to choose exactly the right phrase and put that together, and he wouldn't let anybody else do it. So all his plays he destroyed, except Touch of the Poet, which he had...
You mean in the cycle
in that cycle.
of 9 plays?
Yes. What was the title of it?
A tale of possessors self-dispossessed.
That's right. It is
It's
so...
a tongue twister,
It is
isn't
very
it?
difficult. That's why I wanted you to say it. So, in that cycle, only Touch of the Poet he had finished. So you don't know if he really wanted this play to be produced or not. But I feel that he had come so close to a finished play. The only thing was that it was extremely long and it was repetitious in places, and you have a feeling that if the right man could come with the feeling for O'Neill, he could just take out the unnecessary bits of it.
As Jose Quintero
And
has
I
done.
feel that for some strange reason, this man who has never met O'Neill and who is not American, but he has a tremendous sensibility and a feeling that comes right from his heart. It is not with his brain, it is with his heart. He feels every word. And it is wonderful to work with him because he can explain better than anybody that I have ever worked with what the author meant, as if he felt it himself.
Now, almost everything. Now, the play has been alternately, as you well know, damned and praised and misunderstood and understood in one thing or another. But almost everything I've read about it, almost everything that's been written about it, has been as this last remnant of America's greatest playwright, this lost play.
Yes, but that is why I feel that we are doing the right thing. We are playing it, because how can you keep the greatest playwright, at least I consider him that, how can you keep his play in a drawer for 30 years, and is that never going to be shown? Of course, you can go to Yale University and read it, But how many people do that?
And in his minuscule handwriting.
Yes.
How do you feel about it as a play? Suppose O'Neill, you had no idea who the author was. This was a new play that came out. I've never read any judgment of it as a piece of theater, an entity of itself, not as part of the cycle.
Well, I must say that if I had just been given this play as it is and not knowing who had written it, I would still accept to do it, because it is an extraordinary part, my part and the other woman's part, and I also naturally think that even the man's part is excellent. But I have read in certain critics that they consider the two women's parts so important, and that the men...
Oh, I love O'Neill's women anyway. I think his women are the most powerful.
Yes, maybe they are, because I remember several other parts that I would have liked very much to do. And maybe it's not too late.
Like what?
Yes. Morning Becomes Electra. But of course you have done that quite recently, but I think it is absolutely wonderful. And, there are lots of them. But, I mean, I would have accepted that play anyway, just on the basis of these extraordinary parts. And I think that it is theater. I think it's very good theater.
When you were growing up and one thing and another, were you conscious of O'Neill in Sweden?
Yes. Oh, yes. We have played, I would think, every one of his plays. And as long as I can remember, since I came into the theater myself and started dramatic school in Sweden, they were playing Strange Interlude, for instance. And I remember seeing that and then following all the others. I haven't seen Anna Christie, that I played myself years later, but I saw Greta Garbo in the movie.
But when you came to this country, really it was the second time you came to this country, you met O'Neill.
Yes, I met him.
But you knew the reputation. You knew the playwright, everything before you...
Yes, of course, I had seen.
But you were really just a very young actress at the time.
Yes, but as I say, I had been in Sweden. After all, I went to the theater always, even before I started in dramatic school myself. In Sweden, we have a very nice thing. I don't know if it exists now, but it did in my days. You could buy tickets in school for very, very little money, and you got a season ticket. And you went to all the theaters, you know, from the musical comedies into dramatic shows. And I don't remember, maybe it was 10 performances during the winter. And it was one price for the ticket, and you could sit in the front row on one performance, and the next time you were way up. Well, we are way up there.
Many of the civic theaters, like the Amundsen here in Los Angeles, have do a student program.
Yes.
And I think
it was very cheap, so that already at that time young people started to get an interest in the theater. It wasn't just movies, because you could afford to go to the theater, and you had the chance of getting a very good seat one day, and the next time you got not so good. But you know, among these 10
unsold seats.
No, it was an evening, one evening a week. The theaters gave the theater to the children. Or it was a matinee, for instance. They would put up a matinee at 4 o'clock and do an extra shows for the students. And it was, I know from the actors, and when I acted on the stage in Sweden myself, the enthusiasm was wonderful. It was wonderful to play to these young people, because they were more grateful than the audience that came at night.
I remember Hume Cronyn one time telling me that he was playing Richard III, and they had just finished with a series of student performances, and they were beginning the adults. And he said, now we've had the hip, now we'll have the squares.
Yes. Well, from then, I mean, I learned O'Neill already in those early days, because I went to see the plays that they gave then. So I knew when I did Anna Christie, I knew I was doing
and tell me about
O'Neill's work.
This was right at the beginning of the war, 1941.
Yes.
You'd come to this country. This was the second trip here.
Yes. I came in 39, but then I only came for that one movie, Intermezzo.
Intermezzo, that you'd made earlier in Sweden.
Yes.
And then you came back, really on the last boat out of Genoa, wasn't it?
Yes.
With your daughter?
So. With my daughter, yes. And she was just 1 year old.
Oh, marvelous.
And then...
and then you played Lilium on Broadway with Burgess Meredith.
Yes.
Now, I've heard a story that the producer, whom I don't know, and don't remember, was...
Vincent Freely.
Vincent Freely.
Yes.
Actually thought he was hiring Signe Hasso.
Yes, well, it came about that Signe...
Another brilliant Swedish actress.
Yes, we are the same age, went to dramatic school together, and she went into the theater, as I, right after dramatic school, went into the movies. Though I came back and did 2 plays in Sweden before I came over to America, but it was a limited engagement, you know, temporarily, and she went in for constant theatrical work. And after she'd been at that for a couple of years, she went into movies too. And then she got an engagement in Hollywood. And she came over to America about 6 months after I came. And he got us confused. And Signe Hasso had done tremendous.
She's also a very beautiful woman, I'll add that.
Yes. And, you know, they couldn't tell one Swede from the other, I suppose. And she had done all this theatrical work and was very good in the theater. So he thought that he was safe hiring her. And then when I started to rehearse, and I was complaining that I was so nervous because it was years since I had been on the stage and that I had done very little stage work in just limited time in 2 plays in Stockholm. He realized that he'd made a mistake. he had thought it was
But you went
Signe
ahead
Hasso.
with the production.
Yes, we did. That was a little late. It was just before the opening night. He had to go ahead with it. Anyway, it worked out all right, and it was very nice. Of course, I was very worried because my English was so poor. I had worked and worked and worked to get that part right, but I still do work and work.
I know. You once said that people forget that English is not your native tongue.
Yes,
That you have
yes,
to
they
work
forget it,
English.
absolutely. They, kind of surprised when now and then comes the wrong pronunciation. But of course it is, it's double work because opening night I am not ready with the play. Opening night I am about where the actors are after 2 weeks of rehearsal.
Because of language?
Because of the language. I cannot perform until maybe another month later when, there are different muscles that work when you speak a different language. And until you get it absolutely...
But do you have to translate in your mind?
No, I don't think so. No, the thoughts are the language that you are speaking. And if I speak French, I'm sure if I would think about, give me a glass of water or whatever, I should, it would be in French because it follows what you're talking. But no, it is just to get the mouth and everything so easy and the words come so easy that you can think. Opening night I keep thinking of the words still. And now, when I get into the play and I've had more time with it, I can think of what the words mean.
I want to know about that first meeting with O'Neill. David Selznick brought you to Hollywood, but he didn't have a picture for you.
Yes, he had intermezzo. Oh, then you mean when I came back the second time? No, the war had broken out. And of course everybody in Hollywood was terribly concerned, and they went into the army and they did all kinds of army work, and the entertainment world for a moment dropped completely out. So I went back to Broadway and tried to find a job. And that's how Lillian came up.
Then you came back out and persuaded David to produce Anna Christie for you, the first premiere work.
Yes, then I came back and did some movies, Rage in Heaven and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or something. I don't quite remember now how many. Adam had 4 sons there. However, there was a period and I had nothing to do, and I was very worried about getting too far away from the theater, which I have always wanted to stay close to, because I know that the day will come when the theater will mean more in your life than the movies, because you cannot stay in the movies forever because there are no parts for you at a certain period. And so I persuaded him to let me do a play, and this lovely theater in Santa Barbara was there and empty, yes. So we did Anna Christie. And then I took it up outside New York to Maplewood, but that was only for a week, and that was all.
But in San Francisco is when Mrs. O'Neill, Carlotta O'Neill, came to see the play and came back.
Yes, she came to see the play. He didn't see it because he was ill, and he was kind of hiding already then.
Oh, he was living in Tahoe House,
yes,
that wonderful Chinese
wonderful
house.
Chinese house. So she came, picked me up, and drove me there.
Because he wanted to meet you.
Yes. He must have seen some movie or I don't know. And I sat there in the room, and I will never forget when he came down, because he was such a beautiful man. He was very tall and very slender, and this long face, but his eyes are what everybody talks about. But I like to repeat it too, because it's just something that you can never forget. The eyes were so deep and so dark, and it was just, like you got lost looking at him. It was, you had a feeling that you could read his soul.
I've met poets. You talk to them. Robinson Jeffers was one who looked like he saw so much more than you.
Yes,
is this
exactly. And you had a feeling you didn't have to say anything because he already read your thoughts somehow. So he took me up to his study after we'd had tea or lunch or whatever it was, and there he showed me all these plays, and he was working at all of them at the same time, because it was the same family in different generations. And I think it would have been so wonderful if we could just have read them, even if they were not finished, because even in More Stately Mansions, you know, Sarah and Simon have 4 sons, and the father says one will go into the shipping, and one into banking, one into politics, and the 4th one probably will be the poet again, you know, and then those 4 plays would come out there. However, he was working on it all, and then he asked me.
It was a portrait of an American family through 100 years of American life.
160, I remember he said. That far he wanted to go back and bring it up to today, in those days, I mean, 30 years ago. And he asked me if I would sign up and work for him, because he wanted the same company to do all the parts.
You mean you would, as a character in the first play, would repeat as your daughter and granddaughter and that sort of thing?
And then maybe play a distant relative, or play a new character that came in and that somebody said you look like. I don't know what he had in mind, but he wanted the same faces. And he wanted also, naturally, he wanted a group of people that understood him and that would play well together. And that, like any theater, repertory theater, you know, you have the same people, and certainly they get used to each other and work easier together when they know each other.
But the whole cycle, he told you, would take 6 years to perform.
Yes, that was the trouble, that I was very, very flattered and very happy when I heard that he was anxious to have me. But he said I had to sign up for 6 years, because before he had produced and directed all these 9 plays, 6 years would have gone by. And I had just come to Hollywood, and I saw that career ahead of me, and of course I had signed up with David Selznick. I couldn't break.
And when you're a young girl, 6 years seems like a long...
Oh, it's a long time. It's a long time. So that's why I was very touched when Jose Quintero called me and said, here is one of those plays. And, you know, I said, it comes beyond. Somebody's calling me from the beyond.
This play, Deborah, the character of Deborah herself, who goes into this summer house at the end of the play, and it really retreats into illusion. Does she retreat into madness? I had this feeling in the opening
that's
night.
up to you, because he left it open. And you never know. We know that she was able to hypnotize herself into a state of dream where she dreamt she was this beautiful woman and the men were so in love with her, and she was very clever, and she was...
This is the great lure for her son, isn't it? This illusion that she brings him back into the games they play together.
Yes, no, she brings herself back into this kind, because everything that was of today, which is 1840, she felt was horrible, and there was business, and it was greed, and it was trying to dog eat dog, and it, you know. So she went back into this lovely world, even though she realized that even in those days it wasn't much better, but somehow it had more of elegance over it. It was more beautiful.
Oh, it was a
more
dream world.
Nobler, yes, and it was a dream world. And of course I think that she didn't have any love of the kind of love that she had expected from her husband, and she was too dignified and too well educated to ever try in any way to get out and have any kind of love on the side. So her concentration became the love for her son. And in her dream world, she surely mistook now and then the face of the king or somebody who was in love with her. It was her son's face. So she was able to hypnotize herself into these, I use the word hypnotize, but I don't know, I mean, we can all dream ourselves back into a state of fantasy. That when she goes into the summer house, she has been torn between, for the love of her son, these 2 women have been so torn between themselves.
His wife and his mother.
Yes, to fight for him, which is a duel to death that the man has put them up to, no? He lets one woman fight the other, because they were in perfect unity, but united they were too strong for the one man. He couldn't fight the 2 women, so he divided them. And now they fight each other.
Don't you think they're the 2 elements of all women?
Of
the
course they are.
earthy, the
Of course,
sexual,
yes,
sensual, and the elegant and the beautiful.
Yes. No, exactly. That is exactly what he wanted, but they were unfortunately 2 women, and he had to divide them. And so she is naturally, in her fantasy and her mind, she's weakened. But we will never know if she was weakened to such a point that she goes into complete madness.
In the 6 weeks that the play has been playing on this stage in Los
Yes.
Angeles, I mean, you continually worked on that ending.
Continually worked on it.
Changed it, didn't it?
Yes, because it has such possibilities. Either it can be played that she herself renounces her son because she realizes that the greatest love that you can have is to give your life for the one you love.
Mm-hmm.
So she gives up. But by that time, when she does give up, she can also have in mind that I will give up, but he will never forget me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she can be that nasty, or she can be very...
But she's very rational then in your interpretation.
Well,
This isn't a complete...
sometimes I play it completely, but I tell you, even if I have in mind one evening that I am completely mad,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know anything, I don't know where I am, and I'm the king is in here, and I'm going to go in and live with the king, or the emperor, or the czar, or who is in there. It comes out about the same. The words are the same, and it is up to
You mean
the...
if you feel mad or you feel rational, it seems to be the
comes
same
out
to the audience?
about
huh?
the same.
Uh-huh.
Because if I try to play madness to you now, how will you ever know if I play it or if I really am? You will say, I could see in her eyes that she was playing it and acting it out. That was not real. And I could see she had a glint in the eye. You know, maybe you can. Maybe I'm such a good actress that you will not know.
You know, years ago, and I've always loved it, and maybe it was a press agent line, I don't know. You said that you wanted to live to be 100, and that you wanted to act every day of your life, and that you wanted on your tombstone, here lies a good... No, she'd acted every day of her life, here lies a good actress.
Well, I remember saying that sometime in the very first years of my career here in America, when somebody asked me what would I like to, at the end, what would mean your whole life? Well, as I only had acting in mind, and I've had that all my life, naturally the idea was that I would act as long as I could stand up, you know, until the audience will lift me off the stage.
Do you still feel that way?
Yes, I still feel that way. I have exactly the same enthusiasm for it, the same love for it. And I would be very unhappy if they said, look, we don't want to look at you anymore and get off.
Now tell me, right, when you were 50...
But this thing with the tombstone, I said, yes, I said I would like to. I didn't say anything about 100 years. I'm sure I didn't make the amount of years. It's just that here lies a good actress. That's what I said, that's all. Until her last days.
Just like Molière, you know, died on the stage.
Yes, yes.
But at the age of 15, or thereabouts, you wrote, directed, and starred in a play in Stockholm, which really began the career. So even as a child, you were thinking of being an actress.
I'm terribly happy that I can destroy that complete illusion.
Really?
It is a complete lie, and I have no idea where it comes from. But that happens very often, because people pick up these magazines and they read them. I can't believe that they think it is the truth. Some of it is. Some is absolutely no truth at all. One little thing can be said and misunderstood. I mean, you give an interview and they don't write it down, or they write it down, but a day later when they are going to write the article, they don't quite remember how that came in. So they give a wrong question. No. I have no idea. I've read this several times. I never wrote or directed or did anything at the age of 15. What I did, I wanted to act. I knew that since I was very, very little. And
see, I should put you in the summer house. We keep the illusions.
yes. No, I did learn a lot of poems, and I had read plays, and I did monologues out of plays. And at school, what do you call it? Well, Christmas and Easter, when you had some school entertainment and the parents came to sit down, I was always there offering my services. Either we did a little play, but I didn't write the play. We took a play that children acted, you know. Or I read some poems or a monologue from some play. And that I did at the age of 15. But I don't know where the other story came from. And then when I finished school, I went into dramatic school, and then I acted in other people's plays.
You entered the Royal School of Drama in
Yes,
Stockholm.
yes.
But you went into pictures very shortly after that.
I did, because as you said earlier, you know, I was 18 and I felt that I was so old I had no time to waste. And the school in Sweden, this very famous school where all the Swedish actresses that have come to this country, they have all gone through that school. It was 3 years of learning, and you had no parts on the stage. You could, by the third year, maybe be in the crowd, something like that, just to have the experience. Yes, just walk on, but never say anything. Then the 2 next years, if you were any good, if they realized that they had some talent, they would engage you for 2 more years when you still had half schooling, but you also had the experience of getting the part of the maid coming in saying tea is served.
You had to go through auditions and
5 years. Yes, to get in, you go through auditions.
But then even to get a part after that in the school?
After those two years, yes, I suppose so. They auditioned you. They came up to the school to see these
But you went into pictures after less than a year, didn't you?
Yes, I did, because what happened to me was that I passed in the corridor of the school, and a very famous Swedish director called Alf Sjöberg saw me, and he was casting a play that he was doing. I had only been in the school for a couple of months. I just started. And so he went to somebody and said, what is her name? And send her to me, and I'll talk to her. So he talked to me, and he said, I think I'll ask for you to do the young sister in this play, which was a tremendous, what should I call it? I don't know, feather in my hat, in the very little hat I had, to get a part already after a couple of months in school. And he accepted my audition, and I was cast in the part, and it became a revolution in school. Because those who had been there for 4 years or 5 years, all the actresses that were engaged as actresses wanted that part, and why should I get it? I just got into school. I hadn't even learned how to talk, how to walk. So it became a terrible disaster. Everybody was furious, and everybody hated me, and they got after the director and said he had to give me up. And I had to go back to school, and 5 years were in front of me. And of course that was very hard for me to take, that I had that part, it was taken away from me, and I had to go back to school.
It was almost like a red flag to a ball.
Yes, exactly. And then, of course, in the summer, you could either go on the road in some road company, or you could go and try to get a job in the movies. So I thought, well, I'll drive out to Swedish film industry and see if I can get a test, if there are any parts that I can do during the summer. And my
you did this on your own? You deliberately went out?
Yes, I went out on my own, because I thought in September I would go back to school. So I went out to the head of the, of the Svensk film industry, and asked, how do you get a test? Where do I go and how? So they told me how to go, and I came there and I read one of my poems. And they said, fine, we'll do a test of you. And they did a test, and they engaged me, and they talked me out of the dramatic school. Now, I had already, as I told you, felt that the 5 years were very long, and I wanted to get parts right away. But I still realized that you do have to have schooling. You have to have some base. You cannot just go out on the stage and act. It is impossible.
Did you go back and study then?
Yes, I worked in the movies. No, I couldn't go back to school, because if I didn't come every day, they said, well, she's out. So I took private lessons. But I took private lessons from the same teachers I had in school, and I took everything the others took in school, I took privately. And then I added other teachers. I thought it was very interesting to
Tell me a little about technique. You divided your career very well between the stage and motion pictures.
Yeah.
Even lately, some television, some brilliant work like Turn of the Screw and The Human Voice.
Yes.
The approach to each of these different mediums is completely different, isn't it?
Yes, I would think so. It is different. But it is just, it's a different gear, like in a car. I mean, this is the theater. It has to go out there, and this is the television, and it has to go fast. And this is the movies. We can take more time, but I'm sure to be protected, and I can do very, very little because the camera is right. So once you know that, you switch into a different...
But is your preparation, your approach to the role?
That's exactly the same, I would think. Yes, I think so. Of course, as I was telling you, when you're on the stage, you can grow with your performance, and in the movies, there isn't much time to grow. You have to do it very quickly. You come there, you rehearse it, and you play it very much on an immediate feeling, and almost, frantic delivery to get it right in those few times that they shoot it.
Someone once told me that, or I once thought that in an automated world that the theater is perhaps the last of the handmade arts. In other words, it's an anachronism in our time. Because you have to go out on the stage and do it every night. No one can do it for you.
No.
In motion pictures, and to a great extent in television, you have the feeling that this is not really the actor's medium. That by cutting and changing and this sort of thing, it is not your responsibility.
No, it's true. And of course you have that wonderful security that you yourself can look at yourself and you say, I don't like what she's doing up there. Could I do it again? And now I know how I can change it. On the stage, I'll never know what I look like, and I won't know when it's good and when it's bad. I can't say to the audience, excuse me, I like to do that scene over again. I got it wrong there.
I've seen that happen, though, and I think I really have,
No.
and I think it's marvelous.
And after went back and said, I don't want to do that again?
Frank Silvera, who is a fine director, brilliant actor, came up to the front of the stage and said, really, I would like to read this entire speech over again.
Oh,
and they gave him a standing ovation. It was lovely.
Oh, how
they
wonderful.
Just adored it.
Oh, how wonderful.
The opening of More Stately Mansions here in the Amundsen Theater in Los Angeles is more than just an event in the theater. For Los Angeles, it's enormously important because this is the first drama ever done in this theater.
Yes.
And it's enormous, isn't it? 2,100 seats.
Yes, it is enormous.
And yet the acoustics are good. And
So they say it's very good up. The higher up you get, it seems you hear very well. There must be some dead spots right down here or maybe under the first balcony. I suppose that's always a problem in a big theater. But what can we do? We try to speak as loud as we can.
At least, partly for O'Neill and a great deal for Miss Bergman, there's never been an empty seat since you've been here.
No, isn't it wonderful?
Let's sit down by the fountain.
Yes.
By the Indian.
Yes, the American Indian there. Yes, I'm delighted to have been part of this because, as you say, it is the first time this beautiful theater has opened, and I'm very glad that I have the opportunity to be part of it.
One thing about this stage that you're playing the O'Neill play on, is built down virtually into the laps of the audience.
Yes, I suppose it's over the orchestra pit that they have made this. So we are very close to the first row of people, which frightened me terribly the first night when I saw all those faces, because you rehearse and it's all empty, and then suddenly there they are. And you are not more than a yard away from them.
And you recognize faces through the...
If I looked at them, but I look like that, I look over them. I don't dare, because maybe it's a friend who will say, hello there.
But the lip of the stage actually comes down almost to the seats,
Well, they put their programs and their coats on it and everything, not realizing that we are going to come and walk right past them. I don't think the view of us is very good because they look, straight up like that. But, of course, we play back here, too. But it is because the theater is so big, and to try to reach them from here, we go down there, so at least they can have a chance to see us.
I get the idea that you don't really like this kind of theater that moves down into the audience that close. You'd like more of a separation, a gulf, wouldn't you?
Yes, I do. But then maybe I'm an old-fashioned actress. I do like the ramp and the separation. So the curtain goes up and you see into that world. The wall goes up there. I think the idea that the audience should be so much part of the show that they're almost on the stage is a little too much. But I hear that in America they like that. They want the audience to get so involved that they actually feel that they are in the play themselves.
The one thing I really love about the theater is that you never do it alone.
Well, of course you feel the audience, and you know when they are interested, and you can hold them. You can sometimes feel a pause. You can hold it longer than you ever thought, because they are right with you, and they read into your face something that you didn't think that they could so far away. And of course with laughter, all that, which sometimes is a surprise. They laugh at things that you didn't think that they would laugh at. So you adapt yourself to stopping and let them get the laugh out so they don't lose the next line.
But do they laugh at different times? Do they
Yes,
fool
very
you
often.
quite often?
Very often. It is very strange. I've always thought that was the most peculiar thing, that you have, for instance, here 2,000 people. In another theater, there'll be 700. That all of them react like one. Sometimes they all laugh at one line. And how come that the next evening no one laughs? And you say, well, at least 2 or 3 should be like the other audience. they react like one. Now, once in a while, naturally, the actor blurs the line, they can't hear it, he says it badly or something.
Somebody coughs on it.
Yes, or somebody coughs on it and they don't get it. But there are times when a group of people react like one. And I don't know why.
You've told me that audiences all over the world are the same. The Los Angeles audience, the New York audience, the Paris audience, the Stockholm audience.
Yes, I think so. I can't really divide them, except that they are maybe more outgoing in their applause when you come to Latin countries, because they scream bravo and they throw flowers on the stage or something like that.
Or tomatoes.
Tomatoes, yes. That happens too. So, I mean, it's more open, their, whatever it is, admiration or dislike for you. And here they applaud, but I must say that they are very warm in their appreciation, and I think that if it is good, whatever nationality people have, they react in the same way.
Do they have the same sorts of senses of humor and that sort of thing? For instance, years ago, I'm sorry.
Suppose so, but it shouldn't be, because I have noticed in a simple thing like cartoons, little drawings, and the Anglo-Saxon humor in a cartoon, little drawing, and the French and Italian, the Latin sense of humor are different. They don't have, sometimes I cannot laugh. I don't know what is funny in the cartoon that I look at, because their sense of humor is a little different. But I think in a play, it could be that they laugh at certain things. And you know, very often American plays come over to Paris, and they are huge successes here, and they fail in Paris.
I was thinking
the same thing. There was a play called Patate by Marcel Achard. Do you remember? It ran for 6 years or something like that in Paris, and it came over here in a week or something like that, and it was...
Well, I was thinking of Barefoot in the Park, which was tremendous success in this country, and which your husband produced in Paris.
Yes, it was all right, but it wasn't any more than all right. Because, you see, the joke was one joke, and there was coming up 9 flights, was it?
Well, it was 5 in this country, I think.
5, that's right. And what is 5 flights in Europe? We walk up more than 5 flights every day, so nobody thought that that was a joke. So I think they augmented it up to 11 flights, and it still didn't make them laugh, because they so what? You know, you walk up a couple of stairs, you walk up Piazza di Spagna in Rome.
But sometimes this fools you. For instance, when Robert Anderson's Tea and Sympathy opened in Paris, a play concerning a woman's bringing to maturity a boy who felt
and you have no idea how many people were against my playing it. It was absolutely awful, and I went into that play, and I would think I had 2 people that say I would take a chance at it. One was the directrice of the theater. She was a woman, a Romanian woman, called Popescu, and she believed in the play. And there was one more person that ever said to me, I think it could go over. Everybody else said, it's a disaster. You're going to be laughed off the stage, and it's going to last a week if you'll ever get to the end of the week, because this is a problem that we just don't have in France.
You mean this sexual problem between the young boy who doesn't believe that he's mature?
And for some strange reason, they sat through it and were deeply involved in it.
I've often thought Ingrid Bergman was one of the reasons.
Well, I don't know. I think it's a very good play.
When you make a film, do you miss that audience?
No, I don't miss the audience, because I don't accept them to be there. And if they were there, I would be terribly bothered. You know, sometimes people bring in friends and they sit around, they move and they look. And in a film, you're not giving the finished performance.
Who are you working for?
It's like having people come in and see a rehearsal.
But are you working directly for the director, say?
Yes. I work for the director, because he tells me what he wants. He is and he's there. Now, if other people come in, they will not realize that we are trying to get this scene as good as we can. So you shoot it once, twice, you know, you go up to as many times as you want. You come up to 15 takes, and these people are saying, well, you know, she doesn't know what she's doing. They don't realize that we rehearse a play more than 15 times before we allow the audience to see it. So you work for that one person, and for the cameraman, the angles has to be right, the lights have to be right, you know, everything else around has to... So very often the actors can be perfect, but a lamp burst or something, so we have to do it again. And then you're very embarrassed having people think that it's always your fault. But so it's a different idea.
You worked for many of the greatest directors in the business. George Cukor for Gaslight.
Yes, I've had luck.
And Hitchcock, of course.
Yes.
And Indiscreet is one of your favorite pictures, isn't it?
Yes, I do like it very much because it was comedy. As I told you before, I like very much to do comedy.
Nobody ever lets you do it.
No, very, very seldom.
Even your own husband, didn't you want to do the mother?
Yes, I wanted to do Bear Hook in the Park. Yes, I thought the mother's role was perfect for me, but I was talked out of it.
Now you want to do Cactus Flower, the play that Lauren Bacall
Yes, I think that's a very amusing play. I laughed at it very much. I only read it, and I thought it was terribly funny. Well, I have my ideas that maybe one day I can play comedy, but I'm very pleased with O'Neill because in More Stately Mansions there is much more comedy than you expected, isn't it? People laugh and laugh, and it is wonderful for actors to have the audience laugh. I mean, either they should laugh or they should cry. But when they just sit there, you say, well, they just as well sit at home.
They should do both, really.
Yes.
They should have fun in it, and at the same time it should break the heart.
Yes. Well, that's what we're always looking for, you see, to get that lovely combination.
Among the great directors you worked for, particularly Hitchcock and Cukor and Litvak and Roberto Rossellini.
Yes.
Did you find complete differences in these men?
Oh,
Sam Wood,
yes.
You did one of your best pictures for Sam Wood.
Yes. Oh, yes, they're all different. Everybody, just as an actor is different from another actor, naturally the directors are very different too. And some directors work out everything at home. They have it all prepared. They know exactly how they want the actors to move, how the expression and exactly the tone of voice and everything, which is Hitchcock. No, he works everything out at home and comes and has it all clear in his mind what he wants. Other directors come and have no idea. They get it from the actors. They start to look at the set and the actors start to move, and it is built from then on, you know. Somehow the actor gives the director an idea, the director gives the actor an idea, and they do it together. And some directors are not very concerned with the performance. They are concerned with what it looks like and the big action behind or before. So they give very little personal instruction to you. And another director will be only concerned about the actors and doesn't care a bit about the other things around, you know. So it's very interesting to work for different directors.
You told me an interesting story about camera angles, one side of the face being better than the other.
Well, of course, that is an American idea that I had never heard in Sweden. But when I came here to do my first picture, Intermezzo, I was asked the very first day on the set which was my best side of the face. And I didn't know. So they photographed, they did a test, and they said, well, one side was better than the other. I won't tell you which. And they said, this side is better. So all important close-ups or anything, they were very anxious to do the best side of the face. Well, I was taught that idea, and of course that stays in your mind. You want to look your best, and you think that maybe the difference is so enormous that I must be very careful and watch out for them. My best side. Then I left America and came to Italy, and the very first time that Mr. Rossellini put up his camera to shoot me, I said, you know, my best side, and he looked at me and he said, your best side? I'm making a movie, and I mean, I couldn't care less. You're going to be on the side that suits my action here. And I thought that he was right. It is right. I mean, actors shouldn't be so vain that they always have to look their best. They should try to be good in the part and play it as truthfully as they can and try to forget about how they look.
You know, you've been in the theater, in films, in television, in motion pictures,
yes,
and on the stage. Since you were a girl, since you were a teenager. Tell me about the life of a woman in the theater.
You mean her private life combined with the actress? Oh, it's difficult.
Now, you love to be a housewife, don't you? You love to clean, you love to do all this.
Yes, I love to do all that. But at the same time, I also want to be an actress. And it is difficult. There's no question about it. It is just that you have to try to fight your way through it. And, you know, they ask me all the wonderful thing, young girls, and to be an actress and what she has to do and all that. It is a lot to give up your private life. You cannot be the best mother in the world because you are away and you come home tired and you are preoccupied with what has happened and you couldn't do this well and you have to go to sleep, you have to get up in the morning, and there are a little child that wants to play with you and have you read a story. So you have to divide yourself and try to, and the same thing now, here I am in America and I have my husband in Paris, and of course it's unhappy, but there it is. I won't give up my life as an actress, and my husband knows that, and the children know it too, so they have patience with me.
But you have one of the twins with you now, Ingrid?
Yes, now I have one with me, and the others will come for Christmas.
And she's so beautiful, I saw her last night.
Thank you. Now, anyway, you see, you can divide it. I mean, they are trained since they were small, and then I try to say to myself, maybe, that they are happy that I am an actress, and they come to the theater, they have an exciting life. They are here, they can see what goes on. They see the play not only from the house, they see it backstage, they can see rehearsals, they can come on movie sets, they come on television sets. They know so much about the business, and it's very exciting.
Pia's in San Francisco.
Yes.
And there's a television reporter there, isn't she?
Yes, she's a television. Yes, she came down here with the original idea to make the opening. No, she was going to introduce her mother on her television show, but it was blown up into so much publicity that she had good taste of saying, I think I better not.
I know your work. I watched you in rehearsal for this play, and it is such a total concentration. You said you don't even like to go to parties because if people are not talking about the play, you think they're idiots,
yes.
You know.
Yes, you become so involved in it, and the same thing if you're in a picture, whatever actors do. Now, I talk about actors as if they were all like me. Maybe they are not, but I have found that many are, that they get so involved with their work that it's very hard for them to break loose and talk about other things until it is over with. And in a play, it becomes routine or something, but during the rehearsal period and during the shooting of a picture, you are very much engrossed in that, and that's what I meant. The family suffers.
I know. How can you operate your house under those circumstances?
Yes, it's probably not very good.
The three children live outside Rome, don't they?
No, they live in Rome. They go to school and live in Rome. Yes,
I see.
Yes. And I have my home in France, but I go back and forth as if it was a bus ride. You know, I'm in both places all the time. But, well, it is the same problem for everybody. And now I don't know if other people who work, I mean other women who work in different jobs, now take a lawyer or whatever, a doctor, she must have the same problem. She has her patients, she has her clients, and she's busy with them. And she's not all the way home, hovering over her children and cooking in the kitchen. So it's a job like any other job.
Tell me about the great roles. You played Ibsen's Hedda Gabler, which must have been an enormous ambition of yours to play that.
Well, it wasn't my idea. My husband brought it up, and from the beginning I thought that Ibsen and Hedda Gabler had been done so much and was old-fashioned. And then I discovered that it was terribly interesting. And I fell in love with it. I had done it on television, and then I decided to learn the part in French, and we did it in Paris.
You played it in Paris?
Yes.
You played
well, I would like to do classic plays, you see, because somehow I went in for the theater as being what I really wanted to do, but as I told you, I took the shortcut into movies because I could get there faster and get bigger parts. But it would be wonderful to do some of the real classical things.
Have you ever done Shakespeare?
No, I have never, because I don't know in what language I could do it except in Swedish. My English has to be perfect to say those lines, and I don't know. I probably never will.
Are there many parts you've missed, like Rosalind, Juliet?
No.
Any of the Shakespearean roles that you would like to have played had you not been doing pictures?
No, I mean, I've read some of it. Of course, I haven't read all of Shakespeare's plays, but I mean, I've read those most common plays, and certainly I've thought about playing Portia and things like that. But it never came my way. It didn't happen. I was so involved with movies all the time. And then when I have gone in for theater, it has been always a limited engagement so that I could go back to the family, as this thing is. You know, I cannot take too long an engagement. If it isn't, well, where? Because if I have an engagement in Paris, it's true my husband is there, but my children will be in Italy. And so I try to make it limited.
Actually, this production could not have happened except under these circumstances. That is the blessing of a civic theater, non-profit, underwritten.
Yes.
Because you only agreed to stay in this country for 6 months.
Yes.
And that's the agreement that you're keeping in.
Yes.
And 3 months from now, you will be back in...
Yes, I suppose so. Be back home in France and back and forth to Italy.
What's next? What do you want to do next?
I have no plans for the future. I've been very fortunate, never having to go and search and look. Somehow they have just come. They come. The right period and the right role. And that's why I hope I can continue to be as lucky. And I'm sure that something will come along after this play, but I don't know what it will be. Today I have no idea.
You've played St. Joan on 3 different occasions, in 3 different mediums, really, or 3 different types of play.
It's true.
Joan of Lorraine, the motion picture Joan of Arc, and St. John at the Stake. I was particularly interested in the opera.
Yes.
Did you sing in the opera?
Very little, but there is just a tiny little part which is sung. It is an oratorium, so all the parts are sung, except Joan of Arc and Father Dominique, the 2 talking parts. But at a certain moment, Henniger and Paul Claudel, who wrote the words, knew that if they got an actress to play the talking part, they couldn't also expect her to sing very well. So it is a very beautiful little piece of a child's song, very simple, that for a moment she sings. And Henniger brought down his orchestra so that she could be heard. So I can always say that I have sung at La Scala. I have sung in several opera houses in the world, including Paris and Stockholm and London and Italy and Spain. I sang at the opera.
That was the greatest tour you ever made, or it was more than a tour. It was many, many appearances in many countries.
Yes, because we started in Italy, and then other people came and saw it and engaged us to do it in different countries, and I loved it so much that I forced myself to learn it in different languages, and so I took one engagement after the other and played it in different languages in different cities.
Now, what about an opera audience? Isn't that entirely a different thing again?
Yes, I suppose so. And they still have, I don't know if they now have it, because this is many years ago too, you know. They still have the old-fashioned claque. And I remember the day before the opening when a man entered my dressing room and asked if I wanted to have an applause as I entered on the stage, or if I would prefer to start talking without an applause. So I said, well, you're asking me? I said, I don't know what's going to happen. And he said, well, I am the head of the claque. I give the sign. If I don't give the sign, they don't applaud. And of course, from then on, I never thought that any applause was sincere. I could see him go here and everybody was applauding, and then he did this and they stopped. So I told him that it would be better if I didn't have the applause, because this opera started out in a very beautiful moment, and an applause would have ruined it. And also you have to be in tempo with the music, and the music can't stop and delay themselves, because... And sure enough, he controlled a claque, and the claque brings the audience with them. But I know that doesn't exist in America, but it is in operas. I don't think they have it in the theater. I don't know.
Are you superstitious? Do you feel these portents for this play?
No, I'm not. I'm just half superstitious, not really. But I have a lot of little good luck pieces in my dressing room, and I have certain things that I have carried with me all my life, and I would like to have them. But,
I was thinking of this, though.
I mean, I walk under a staircase, and I do certain things that I don't even know that I shouldn't do.
But for instance, in the way that your life went, you came to this country to make the Selznick picture, Intermezzo. You went to Germany and made a picture for UFA about the same time.
Before, yes. That was before the war.
And then you went back to Sweden.
Yes.
And the war really sent you back to this country again, didn't it?
That's right, yes. Yes, I only signed up for one picture because I didn't want to have the fate that so many other European actresses had. They were good actresses and stars in their own right in their country. And then they were engaged by Hollywood. They came over here. They changed their looks, their hair, their eyes, their teeth, and everything.
And disappeared.
And then send them back to their own country. So I said, no, I'm coming there and for one picture, and I'm going back to my own country. And I did a picture there after I did Intermezzo.
Did you think your career might have gone in a different way had there been no war? For instance, in the theater, in the stage?
No, I don't think so. No, once I had started in the movies, and I was very fortunate to right away after the little test that I told you about earlier in our conversation, I got a part, and it was a big part. And from then on, I always got the leads. I have been a very fortunate actress. I never played small parts. So, of course, I was so pleased with the movies because the parts were so good that when I came to America, the same thing. My parts were very good. Leading men and directors were first class. Of course, my career would have been the same even if there had not been a war. I would have stayed on in Hollywood.
And worked in pictures.
Yes, and tried to get back on the stage now and then, because I do believe that we have to, our roots is the stage.
What do you like that you've done, really like?
Well, I am...
Are you so much involved in what you're doing that this is what you really like?
Yes, yes, the last one is always the best. But no, I couldn't take out one particular thing because I've had so many pictures and so many plays that I have really liked. And another thing, I've been fortunate in not being forced to do things I don't like. I have had the possibility of saying, no, I don't have to do this. I don't like it and I don't have to do it. You know.
So much of this audience, so much of the American audience, and particularly since television, because your old films are back on television again.
Yes, so I've noticed. The period I've been here, I've already had 5 of them on television. But I'm surprised.
Working with Bogart in Casablanca, and working with Gary Cooper in Throw Home the Bell Tolls and The Crop Here. Yes. These are wonderful memories to me, and it's marvelous to have them come back again. How do they feel to you now?
Oh, wonderful, too, I must say. There are so many wonderful memories involved with all those pictures. So, except that I noticed that they cut them. They cut them, and I think, well, if they cut what is good to cut, but I mean, they were completed to be in the best form, and now I don't know who it is that just says this is too long, we need commercials in here. And of course, I think your commercials are just killing. I don't understand how the American people can have the patience to have every picture broken up every 5 minutes.
You bear with it if it's a good picture. If it's Casablanca, you'll stay along with it.
Yes, but I don't know why they can't collect the commercials in the beginning and in the end, or break it once in the middle. Why should it be broken up all the time? I think that, thank God we don't have that in Europe.
You don't have it all?
No, you see the whole entire picture. And then you have commercials in the end or connected, that's it. And then the picture flows. The same thing with a play, any kind of documentary, there is no cutting in and chopping it up like they do here.
How did you enjoy the television work you did?
Yes, you see, I enjoy television too. I like it all. Because television combines the theater and a movie.
Well, that's live television.
No. It's taped or filmed. I mean, it makes no difference. On the stage, if something happens that goes wrong, the audience sees it and they feel sorry for you. In television, if they suddenly see the actors, something is wrong, they don't know what it is. They say, well, what is going wrong? You know, they don't bear with you, they don't know why. Now, the other evening here on the stage, Miss Dewhurst, who plays my daughter-in-law, lost her slip. And it was terribly funny because it is one of those nightmares that can happen to you. And she suddenly feels this enormous slip coming down and it fell around her feet. Of course, she couldn't go on with her performance. Now, had it been television, they would never know what happened. They would only see these 2 actresses getting all confused, not remembering that, trying to go on.
I just wanted to thank you for doing the things you do so well, and I hope you'll come back and do them again.
Thank you for being so wonderful for the theater in Los Angeles and doing everything that you have done.
With people like you on the stage, there's no problem.
This is NET, the National Educational Television Network.